Yeah. Just a little background about me. I'm a third year triple E student, and my internship at the University of Edinburgh wasn't my first research experience. I had already worked at a few labs remotely prior to that, so it might be a bit different from anybody's first experience at all. Just a rough idea of what kind of work I do there. My work is mostly around neurosymbolic AI and interpretability in language models. So, just a brief overview of what this means. Neurosymbolic AI is just you're trying to bridge neural networks and classic symbolic reasoning together to create a more robust, rule based model basically. That's the whole gist of it. So a neural network, it basically learns stuff from a lot of data, but there's a whole black box around why and how it's doing it. Whereas symbolic reasoning is very bare bones. It's just something very simple, like if something is a cat, it has to be an animal, a very simple rule. So what we try to do here is we try to use these rules to improve the uh, reasoning and the interpretability in these neural network based models. That's what we're doing on a very topical level. That's what we're doing. So initially, I found this professor's papers in the space of constraining language models using neurosymbolic AI, and I really wanted to work in that space at the time, and so I just approached him. Later on, I think about 1.5 months ago, we pivoted to a different direction that was towards interpretability, where we try to figure out uh, why and where things are changing within a model, like in the internals of the model. This was just we just pivoted very recently, and so like it's almost as if the work started from scratch. But yeah, that's what just happened. So how I got this internship, this wasn't through any formal program or anything, because as you could tell, no programs really starts in July or anything. I just reached out through a cold email that I found this paper of yours uh, at XYZ place, and I really liked it, and I would like to work with you in this specific domain, and just let me know however I can contribute. So that's how it began, and since I already had some experience beforehand, it was it really helps if you have some experience beforehand, because they know that this person already knows how to work in a remote setup and everything and how to contribute. So here I would say I didn't really have a formal interview or anything. It was mainly us just discussing potential ideas that we could work on together, me and the PhD guys. So the co-authors of that paper that I had cited in my email, those PhD students reached out to me, and we just got on a call and we just discussed ideas. So yeah, it was a bit different from your classic, coding test and then getting an R. Right? It was a bit different. So for somebody who might be interested in how that works, I'll give you a rough idea. So my first RI was at NTNU, which is an institute in Norway, under Dr. Kiran Raja, and this was a proper, uh, you know, you sent I just sent a cold email. Then he took, like, his PhD student took a small interview, and the classic process, which was simply just, so the project was going to be in diffusion models and multimedia forensics, and he wanted me to be a bit thorough, at least with basic deep learning, and have a rough idea of how diffusion models work. So my interview was mostly theoretical here. He just asked me questions, basic questions, and then some case-based questions, like, if we're stuck in this XYZ situation, how do you think of ideas to fix it or something like that. So that was a standard interview, and yeah, and so this place was where I actually sort of learned how to do remote research internship, because it's very unstructured in a remote environment. In a formal program, they usually have a fixed set of topics, and they want you to work on specific problem sets. But in a remote environment, it's very informal. uh, you get a lot of autonomy, but at the same time, the amount of guidance and mentorship you get is much less, at least from what I understand. So I got very lucky here that these guys, despite being a remote place, they really helped me. Like, I understood that this kid is just starting out and we should really help him out. He won't be able to do things on his own. So this is where, I sort of learned how to do stuff. Um, so you could always go for formal programs, but so in my case, I started really late. I started in Feb or March, I think, this year, when I wanted to go for an RI. And that is a bit late if you want to go for formal programs, because most of the deadlines, they just close by December or January. So most of it was gone. A couple of them were left, and I did apply to them. But I'll explain you why. As a second year, it's a bit difficult to go for a formal program. So these formal programs are usually pretty well funded. You don't really need to care too much about, how I'm going to arrange funds or anything. Unlike remote internships, which are like mostly it's just unfunded. It's just for your own research experience and everything, just to build a profile and all. But if you want proper funding and everything, formal programs are, practically your own choice, because these labs on their own, they are not very willing to, spend money on external undergraduates. Tons of funding cuts happening all around the world. They're not very willing to spend money nowadays. So these places are fairly competitive, unlike a remote internship where, you could just get lucky. Somebody might just have an opening and just take you in. These are competitive places. They require a, strong CGPA, a proper CV, statement of purpose. Sometimes even they want, LORs and references to vouch for you. But yeah, this is a really good option, and ideally you should go for this. But like in my case, I didn't have an option because I started really late. So I was able to get into an institute in Spain, which had I think it was a partially funded program or something. But the thing was that these places, at least the foreign institutes, they want your home university to sign a no objection certificate that like BITS doesn't have an issue with you working at another university. And unless and until you are willing to skip your PS1, BITS won't give you that NOC. And if you skip PS1, you skip PS2. And a lot of people don't want to skip PS2 because, just it's a really good option to go for. So I was in the same boat, and I decided to let go of that because I really wanted to, hold on to my option of doing a PS2 later on. But from what I know, some Indian institutes don't require an NOC. I think ISC doesn't require an NOC. So those are good options. But then ISC doesn't really open up formal opportunities, at least in the computer science domain, very often. And in either case, just try to get an online PS, because uh, you know, uh, they don't really give you a lot of meaningful work in your PS1. So it's really good if you could, like, you could either prepare for your SI in your uh, summer break after 2-2, or you can get into this. But, just doing PS1 is like, I consider it a waste of time. Like, you don't really learn a lot over there, unless it's some, big shot program or something. So about shortlisting and cold mailing. So since my whole approach was, around cold mailing and informal approach, I feel csrankings.org is your best friend here. So there's a whole list of universities which you could. So there are multiple filters based on whatever area you want to work on. Say you want to work in the space of computer graphics, something very random. You could just select computer graphics, and it would give you a ranking of universities based on the research output in the domain of computer graphics. And you could just click on one of them. There would be a whole list of professors working in that. And, with their Google Scholar page and everything, you could just cool mail these professors asking for a internship or any sort of collaboration that you wish for. So a few tips about how you should mail these professors. So these at least in my domain, that is, like in general, in deep learning and all, this is a very crowded space. And if you mail a professor from a top university, they are probably going to, just not read it because they get like 100 mails every week. So don't have time to read every single mail. So how do you make sure that at least they read it? Uh, you could just try to make a very concise and personalized email around whatever the professor is working around. So if you're able to sell yourself, basically, that you'll be useful to the lab and you'll be able to meaningfully contribute to their work, that is the whole gist of your cold email. If your whole thing is going to be, I'm very hardworking and I'll just do whatever you give me, chances are they might not even reply. So yeah, that was just a small thing I wanted to point out. Apart from that, cold emailing is a very disheartening process, I would say. Like if you send about 100 cold emails, you'll probably get like 15, 20 replies at best. So it's a bit difficult of a process, and that's why I recommend formal programs over this. But at least the whole thing about cool meaning is that it gives you a bit more options. Like you can actually pick and choose what domain you want to work in. So at least that's the good thing about cool mailing and through informal programs. But yeah, otherwise you should prefer a formal program ideally. And also, I would personally suggest to go for a professor or somebody who is working in an area you actually like and you think you can, do well in, rather than just, mailing every professor in, MIT or Stanford. Like I would really suggest that. Also, something that I observed, and this happened to me as well, there are a few top universities, like top 20 US colleges or something. These places have certain labs which you could just mail the professor and they would just accept you for no good reason. You could say, I want to work on XYZ, and they just accept you without any conversation or anything. And later on, they won't give you any structure or supervision. You'll learn nothing, and it's just a whole waste of time. It's good for CV padding. You could put, I was a research intern at XYZ top 5 university, but you are not getting any real output or any LOR or anything for your MS or PhD applications either. So if you feel that uh, they're not making you do any work at all, I would say a remote RI like that is almost completely useless. And I would really suggest to pick a cool lab or a professor or something that you actually like, or you feel there's a high uh, chance of publication or getting a decent output out of it, over going for a university tag. Like any day of the week, I would prefer say an IIT or an ISC RI over an empty a hollow where I don't do any work, kind of a Ivy League RI or something. So that's just a small what not to do in this, at least in the remote research domain. Yeah, so that was mostly from my side. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions after the meet or anything, just feel free to contact me on these. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aryan. We really appreciated your insights. Our second speaker for the day is Arpita Tomar. She completed her research internship at the University of Southern California, focusing on reinforcement learning for human feedback. Arpita, you can start presenting now.
Yeah, thank you. I hope you guys are able to see my screen and I'm audible as well.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. So, hello everyone. A brief introduction about myself. My name is Arpita, and I did my research intern at University of Southern California for the past summers. I was in US. It was an on-site research internship, I worked in Lira Lab under Professor Erdemberg, and my topic was on reinforcement learning with human feedback. So basically, I was working on a project in which we were training a robot to learn from human interventions whenever it is doing a task, and if it has some intervention, then it should learn from that intervention. That was about my project. I will tell about my experience at the last of my presentation. Firstly, talking about what can you expect from a summer research internship? How will it look like? What kind of work can you expect? As I did a research intern through a formal channel, so my project, my timeline, everything was well defined. So I was in US for 2 months, and the 2 months of period I had a project which was like well defined under a PhD scholar. I had a mentor. I was working in the lab under the professor with regular meets and everything. The place where you work your work depends on the place where you are in. For example, if you are doing a research project under a professor, it will look different. If you are doing some industry project, it will look different. So you can expect that you will be working under a PhD on their ongoing project or some extension of an already existing work in their lab. The best thing you can get out of the working in the lab is if you co-author a paper under the professor or with some PhD scholars. Okay, so when if you are considering to applying for through the formal channels, one of the main things that you should focus on is in which domain you are going to apply. So most of you might be second yearites, and some of you might be third yearites. So in second year, you have like room for a lot of exploration. Some people might be having a specific domain in which they are interested. Others might be interested in a number of domains. So it is important for you to decide one domain. Like it's not like you have to stick to that domain for your life, but for the research internship, identify your interests, whether you are interested in deep learning, you want to do a project in LLMs, or you're electronics person, some VLSI or 3D chip kind of thing. So, how do you find your domain if you are not sure? One thing is explore through the courses which are offered in bits, through your DELs, through your projects. You have study projects. You can explore through it, and no doubt it will help you in the future. Even if like there might be some projects which might not be useful, but they will help you identify your interest. So once you have your interest, you can explore the professors who are like working in your domain. You can go through their Google Scholar, overview their papers, find what interests you. Essentially, what professors are looking for in you is like, are you willing to work? Are you willing to learn? And do you have the capability to like work out a problem with some solution that has some hope in it? So once you have your domain, how do you find an opportunity? Best thing is through formal channels. I got into IUSST of Viterbi program, uh, thanks to one of my friends who told me about it. I applied in other programs as well. I applied to in SIGPA, NUS. I applied in Internship France, but I got into this one. This was the second program that I applied into. So, in case of formal channels, the plus point that you get into a lab, you have your funding, you have your accommodation, everything is taken care of, but your project is fixed. uh, Through the formal channels, what usually happens, there is an application form. In their application form, they have like a number of professors that are listed down along with the projects that they are offering for for a particular cycle of research internship. You explore all of them, whatever interests you. If you are like fascinated towards something, and if you have your interests aligning with a professor, you can mail them, talking to them, telling them about your profile, what projects you have done, what do you think, what can be additionally done to the work they are doing. uh, so in my case, what happened, I applied to USC, USST Viterbi program. There we were explicitly told that you don't need to contact your professors, but in other programs you may need to, because like there are a lot of people who cold mail, and if you like set yourself with the professor, tell them about their interests, you get a higher chance of being selected through the formal program, because at the end the professor is the one who is selecting you. Like, but the channel is just for foreign RIs, it's like you're uh, you are just going from here to some other university. The all the smoothing of this is done by the channel, but it's the lab who selects you. So there is a list of summer research programs. This is a GitHub repo. I'll like post it in the chat box. So it has like a number of programs that are listed, research internship, formal channels for all of them. At the end of this GitHub repository, there are some programs which are explicitly for Indian students, like the Viterbi India program, Kurana program, and the Chapek program. And there are like internships offered by IITs and triple ITs. There are a number of them. These links might not be active, but you can search for the active links on the web, and you will just know all the programs through this GitHub repository. Don't worry, I'll share it. Okay. Second thing is, if you want to do a remote research intern, you can apply to professors, cold mail them. But I didn't do. Fortunately, I didn't have the need to do that because I got into one. It is hard to get into to get reply of a professor. I'll not be talking much about it because I was not the one who did this. So when you apply through the formal channels, what are the some things that you should be taking care of? First of all, when you talk about your interests in your application form, you don't just state things that I am interested in this field, I am interested in LLMs, like they won't buy it. You should have something tangible to support your statements. So, something tangible, what do I mean by that? You should have done some coursework in that, because that shows like you have some basics, you have the basics clear in your mind. If you are applying in a deep learning project, then if you would have done some deep learning project in your college or a course, then they are sure that you know about the basics on which you can build upon to reach their level of background. Because you won't be doing the exact same project, you just need to have similarity with their project and your profile to work with them. So having a doing relevant coursework to doing a number of projects will help you, will highlight these points, will be like highlighted points in your profile. And uh, usually in case of applications, there are three things that are needed. There is like your resume, there is your statement of purpose, and there is your LORs. Most of the applications requires LORs, letter of recommendation. I got two letter of recommendation, one from my PS instructor and one from a professor in BETS. Getting a good LOR is always better. So, okay. So talking about my project, I applied in RL and LLMs. So what did I have in my coursework? I wrote everything that I wrote in my resume was supported by I elaborated it in my statement of purpose that I wrote in my resume. I have done this project, I have done this coursework. In my statement of purpose, I elaborated it that I have been doing all these coursework, I have been doing these projects because I want to pursue this. I have these basics. I did some DELs, like I did SIA, if you know. SIA is a statistics DEL, a maths DEL. So I did that and I wrote about it in my statement of purpose. I wrote about my degree, like I am a mathematics and CS student, so I have strong foundations in maths. I can like, I'm not just someone who know the front part of like deep learning. I know the background as well. I sold this point in my statement of purpose. And what I think and what I realized, this was one of the main things that was like highlighted me from others, because the project I've got was very mathematical, even if it was a deep learning project, but I was dealing with a lot of probabilities and equations. So what you wrote, if you write it in a very with something tangible, that will help you a lot. And okay, for the LORs, it is important that instead of getting some random LORs from a professor under which you have done some course, it is better to get an LOR from a professor under which you have done some project, because that reflects more about you. So I got one from my PS instructor. So if you have a good PS, like if you did a good research intern PS at in ISRO or IARS, then it will be helpful to you. It can be helpful to you for getting LORs for having a project, because in my profile, one of the when I was applying my PS project at ISRO was the like major highlight for all the among all the projects that I did. So if you do a good PS, that will be helpful, no doubt. Write your statement of purpose and your resume like genuinely. The templates are different depending upon the application. You need to take care of them, but more or less, like, don't yap things in both of them. Be genuine about your interests, about your coursework and projects. Okay, so talking about my experience in at QSC. So I told you that I worked at uh, in Lira Lab under Professor Ardenbach. So most of the time, actually, my whole process was very smooth. My accommodation, my visa, everything was taken care by the like the forum that was conducting that whole internship. So things that you should take care, like when you are applying for foreign RI, you should take care of your visa, like how will you get your visa, your funding and accommodation, whether you are getting or not. And when you are working over there, like over like in a school under some professor, try to be, you won't be able to complete your project in a 2 months timeline. So it's more about how much you learn over there, and if you do good, you can anyways do continue working remotely after the like your internship period is over. You can get a paper through it. You can consider doing a thesis as well, like you can talk to the professor for thesis if you want to pursue research, or even if you don't want to. And masters for sure, if you want to, you will get a very good LOR if you do a like if you worked under some professor offline in some other country. Those people over there, the professors over there, they have like crazy level of network. And if you like work wholeheartedly, then it's very nice that you can get an LOR, and that can land you at some Ivy League for your MS or your PhD, whatever you want to pursue, if you like want to pursue. Otherwise as well, it was a great experience for me, because when I went for the internship, I wasn't sure whether I want to pursue research. I was like, no, I don't want to pursue research, but for sure, I will explore it. But when I came back from there, I was like, the culture over here is way different. The people respect, everyone respects the people who are doing PhD, and like these people are so passionate about their work. So my thought process actually changed over after being there for like 2 months. And more than that, actually I made a lot of contacts. So in future, if ever I make my mind, that contacts, those networks will be way helpful. So if you like, you can consider all of these perks if you want to apply, if you want to consider applying for a research intern. And okay, one other thing that I want to tell, that this particular program for, I am a dualite, and this program was for third year, right? Like people after their third year or fourth in their final year can do the like can pursue research intern over there. It was not for after second year, but there are other programs, formal channels, which accepts the second year students as well. You need to explore all these things, like check the eligibility. etc. Yes, and that is it about my presentation. I'll share the link, like the GitHub link that I showed you. Yeah, thank you guys.
That was brilliant, Arpita. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Abhijit Seshadri. He completed his research internship at IIT Bombay, working on the digital and embedded side of electronics, where he interfaced an FPGA with NAND flash memory to run ML algorithms on the FPGA. Abhijit, I think you can start.
Yes, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a presentation, unfortunately, but I don't really think I need a presentation. So it will be a yap fest right now. But if there's any doubt or if there's anything that you cannot hear or something or questions while I speak, just chat. Just put on the chat so I can answer. So, um, yeah, I'm Abhijit Seshadri. I am a fourth year right now in my Scienti SEM, and I'm in electronics and instrumentation. I did my research internship this summer in July at IIT Bombay, where, as they said, I was involved in working with FPGAs and NAND flash memory sticks. So I'll tell you first as to how I, applied for the research internship, how I got it, and then I'll tell you my experience, and then some tips that you should keep in mind in considering research in general. Right. So unlike the other speakers today, I predominantly looked only to apply to Indian colleges because travel and the schedules are not fixing for me. So I applied to predominantly IITs. And in India, the IITs have this certain summer research programs. So each IIT has their own summer research program. Kanpur has Surge. Madras has something called Summer Fellowship Program. IIT Bombay has its own process. IIT Delhi has its own process. All the IITs have a process. You could either go through that, which is the formal route, or you could just, cold mail the professors and just tell them, "Please, sir or ma'am, I am interested in so so so. I want to work with you in so so so. Can I find any opportunity?" and so on. So the way I did it was there is something called as the Indian Academy of Sciences Summer Research Fellowship Program, which is an pan-India research internship program where they essentially invite applications from across the country, from both teachers, students, masters, PhDs, everybody, right? And they also invite research opportunities from professors. And they essentially, it's like a Tinder profile, it's like a Tinder platform for matching research internships. They look at what you want, they look at what the prof wants, and then they see, can you be matched with a professor or not? Right, and after that you go to the place and you finish your internship. So that's what I did. It opens every year. I think the applications for this year haven't opened yet. They open somewhere late November, early December, and they go on to like February. So that's what I applied for. And then you have these IIT programs, as I said, you apply for them individually. And again, same Tinder profile matching system. You ask for something, the professor asks for something from you, and then if it matches, you get it. So what do you need to apply? um, you need to submit a CV, you need to submit a resume, you need to submit a statement of purpose as to why you're applying to this program, what are your research interests, why you are actually interested in this domain or this professor, so on and so forth, right? Many programs let you go through the available opportunities. IIS Summer Research Fellowship does not. It just asks you to, you know, mention what your research interests are. That's what I did. So I said I'm interested in digital circuits and device modeling, so on and so forth. And I got to work with Professor Sandeep Mondal at IIT Bombay. That's it. Pretty straightforward, really. There is not much to the application process. It's just filling the forms on time and writing a decent statement of purpose. A lot of questions that did come to me was how to write a statement of purpose. So you essentially just cannot, as Aryan said before, right? You cannot just mention I'll work hard or I'm assiduous or I will come on time every day and so on and so forth. Please take me in. That will not work. A professor who is going to employ you theoretically for 2-3 months expects that you will dedicatedly serve him and his project or her and her project with the best availability. So you got to mention that to your statement of purpose. You have to explain, why you're interested in a particular field, what have you done in that field beforehand, and why does that make you the best candidate to be selected for the project. So I had done a SOP in my 3.1, which I mentioned, and I had done an informal SOP in my 3.2, which I mentioned. So you got to give concrete examples. Otherwise, you will you won't be standing out from the hundreds and thousands of applications that will come in, right? That's the most important thing while considering an SOP. Apart from that, it's pretty straightforward. You just apply on time, you apply and you wait. And if you get an internship, you accept it. You go. The internship is often for 2 months. For me, it was June, July. So now, okay, at the internship, what did I do? So my job was, as they said, to interface an FPGA with a NAND flash memory. And what we were looking for was to store data in a NAND flash memory in a unique way, such that data recovery is fast and data reliability is higher. Given that temperature variation, so on and so forth. That was my thesis project. Essentially. That was my topic, right? And I had to essentially do all the data processing and the data, you know, storing first in the FPGA, transfer it to the NAND flash, and then if I want to run an ML program on the FPGA, so I withdraw it from the NAND flash again and test for reliability, how corrupted the data is, so on and so forth. That was what I did. Um, so I was assigned a PhD student by the professor who would check on me every week, and I was told that this is your desk, you work here. Here's your FPGA, you work with it. Any help, you can call me, talk to me, text me, whatever, right? So the professors are very approachable. Generally, if you show interest, they expect you to do work. You just can't get away by chat GPTing your way through it. I tried first week, it did not work. I got really scolded. So do not do that out of experience. So you got to work, right? If you want to do a research internship, you got to work. Apart from that, the experience is pretty chill. You will get some. If you, for example, if you get Kanpur, right, which I applied for, they give you hostel and stay and food as well. So accommodation is sorted, your food is sorted. All that you have to focus, even travel is sorted for some instances. All you have to really focus on is, to go there and to just go to the research lab or wherever you are and work properly. So that's the formal route. The informal ways as well, cold mailing. The issue with cold mailing is a lot of profs, especially in India, they expect you to work for 6 months or more. And in electronics, remote RIs are just not possible because you need the equipment to work on, right? I needed the FPGA board to do any FPGA things. I can't just, work online and submit the data over emails and stuff. So remote RIs for electronics is difficult. At least it was difficult for me. And so your best bet is to actually apply through these formal programs and manage to get an internship that way. Informally, the professors will just generally ask you to work for more than 6 months. Otherwise, you won't get a proper internship. If you're looking for thesis, that's a very good way. You can easily go for a 6-month thesis. Though the electronics department does have forms about letting you go on India thesis, so that is a different story. But in research internships, I would highly recommend you all going through the formal program. Yeah. Now, the other thing that often was a problem for me was a lot of people believe that research is very, glorious and has a lot of luster to it, and that is just not true. Some research is just mundane, marginal improvements and efficiencies, which might look boring. But the joy of research is not that you get to do some groundbreaking stuff and you get a paper out of it, right? Sure, if you get a paper out of it, wonderful. LORs are even better. All that is great. But the fundamentals of electronic research is that you get to actually apply what you learn in your 2.1 and 2.2 and 3.1 and 3.2 on a real life system. And that is most important in electronics. Because when you apply for masters or PhDs, right, the interviewer who's going to ask you, the professor is going to ask you as to, why are you applying, expects you to have some hands-on knowledge, right? You might know the Verilog codes for, a D flip-flop, so on and so forth, say Ratawad in your head. But unless you can execute it, there's no point. So do not really expect a lot of, returns, as in tangible returns, like in forms of papers and publications and LORs and, groundbreaking results. But it's mostly a learning experience, right? It's a more theoretical application. It's an application of all the theory that you have learned so far. And that's the most important that you'll get from an electronics RI, right? So That is something that is important to note when you think about electronics RI in general. The other thing is, how do you figure out a field, right? Electronics is a vast field. How do you figure out what you're interested in? The trick is you wait until 2-2 is finished, because without 2-2 you cannot really know what electronics subjects are interested. A lot of people, they want to do a 2-2 SOP in electronics, and I really suggest that you don't. You wait until you do SAS, MUI, Consys, MUPI, and all that, because without that you cannot really know what is your liking. So you wait for those subjects to finish. Once you finish the subjects, you have an inkling as to whether you really like electronics or not, and then you also have an inkling which particular domain you like or not. So accordingly, you go to those profs who teach the subjects, get a probable informal or a formal SOP under them for 3-1, work on that project, and just build from there. Read papers if you can. Those are very difficult habit to build. Just be aware of what you want to explore things on campus through projects, through SOPs. Informal SOPs are a great way to go about it. It does not really affect your grade, but you still get to work with a prof. So I did an informal SOP for almost a year now, and I got 2 publications out of it. So it's pretty good. But yeah, just wait for your 2-2 to finish properly so that you have a better idea, right? And then think over PS whether you actually want to, do electronics or not. And there is time. It's not like you don't have any time. If you don't get an SI, you can always go for an RI in the summer after third year, right? And you can start working on it as soon as you come back to college for your third years. There is no need to jump the ship right now, because if you say get an RI in your second year and you want to go, it's good, but you might not really enjoy it, and then it's like a bad experience for you. So you don't want that to happen. So the most important thing is you figure out what you really like and work in minor projects also in those domains, and then you build an SOP that is dedicated to the prof, because you got to show the prof ki, I am worth spending time on, and I will spend all my energies to get your research done, right? That's pretty much it. So those are the tips that you should keep in mind while applying for electronics. It's a slow process, and in India it's even more bureaucratic because India, but it's not impossible. And yeah, it's not you know un- you cannot. It's not like you cannot do it at all, and it's often rewarding. So yeah, that's about it. If you have any questions, do let me know.
Thank you, Abhijit. Now we begin with Siddharth Patel. He completed his research internship at IISc Bangalore, focusing on stability analysis of 3D printed shells. Siddharth, you can start presenting.
Yeah, so am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So mainly I'll be focusing on three aspects, that is why research internship, what and how. So I think how has been discussed by all the three of them pretty widely. So I'll focus mainly on why and what. So a brief about myself. So I'm Siddharth. I'm a final year civil engineering student at Pilani. And as you rightly mentioned, I worked on stability analysis of 3D printed concrete structures specifically, as I'm from civil engineering. So if anyone has worked in mechanics, they would know something called FEM, that is finite element method. So that is something that I worked on specifically on 3D printed concrete structures. So I'll quickly move to why research internship. So maybe you could have a genuine interest in research. You have done a few SOPs or informal projects, or maybe you just want to explore what research is, maybe build a foundation for your higher studies, or simply that okay, I could not get a SI. I tried really hard, but I don't want to sit idle for my next coming summer, and I'll try exploring this new research idea. But clarity is important because this clarity is what will give you a good SOP or a good cold mail. Because if you're not clear to yourself what you are aiming for, you can't convey that to the professor. Then I'll quickly come to what to do in a research internship. So I'll share my experience at IISc. So my guide at IISc, Dr. Devraj Ghosh. So my first day in, I came in, we discussed my research topic that was on the 3D printed shells. And after we discussed the topic, what he told me is that you are not here to complete just this research topic. You are here to learn how to think, how people do research. What he told me is even if you don't complete this research goal by the end of the 2 months, I'll not be sad. But if you don't interact with people, if you don't go to conferences, you don't build a network, then I won't be happy with your performance. So that is what he wanted to teach me, and that was a pretty interesting perspective to a professor saying that it's not necessary to complete that particular research goal, but you focus on building a network, focus on learning how people do research. So that is something that you should also be focused on, because certainly what would happen in 2 months is you'll most likely end up working on an existing project that the researcher and his team is working on. So you don't want to end up just doing someone else's grunt work. You want to make sure so that you have your own personal upskilling, and that will come with interacting with people and learning how other people are doing research. Then I'll go to how to get a research internship. So I think mainly this has been covered. Now, funnily enough, even like Abhijit, I got in through Indian Academy of Sciences SRFP program as well. But there are a lot of other standard programs as well, both national and international. And cold milling has also been discussed pretty widely. But only one thing that I would like to add is clarity. If you don't have clarity for yourself, you won't be able to convey it. So, in case of cold mills or in case of SOPs for standard programs, you should make sure that you're writing very personalized mails or personalized SOPs. Look through their profiles, understand what their research is, how is it beneficial for you, how is your background connected to their research, and be clear again. So very important point that is you should be focusing on your upskilling and building your own network, because you don't want to end up doing someone else's grunt work. You need to make sure that you're getting something out of those 2 months and not just doing plain Excel sheets or just doing some lab work for someone else. Make sure that you get your thing out of it. Now, I was able to convince my professor to give me my separate project and not work on PhD's existing work, even though I had people to guide me through. But I did work on my own project, and that if you can convince your professor for that, that would be the best thing out of it. But that is not necessary that you would get a individual project. What can you get out of a research internship is if you can get out papers, that is absolutely good. If you can get publications, but it's not necessary that you can convert a good publication within 2 months. You could expand it to a full-on research thesis for the final year, or you could build connections and good profile for your higher studies, or you could make other corporate thesis connections as well. So that's it, because I went through short. If there's anything to repeat or to elaborate, please let me know in the Q&A, because a lot of points were already covered, so I did not elaborate much.
Thank you, Aryan, Arpita, Abhijit, and Siddharth for giving us your insights about your specific research internships. We'll now begin with the Q&A session. We've got one question addressed to Aryan and Arpita. The question is, I'm a first year CSE student at BITS Pilani interested in AI and quantum mechanics. What steps should I take from now on to build my aptitude and gain the skills for research to understand which stream I would like to pursue and further go abroad for masters?
Okay, so considering like I think you must not be sure about what you want to pursue. Like you are not sure about your domain, but you said you want to pursue quantum mechanics and AI. They are very broad in themselves. You don't know whether you will find them interesting or not. um, you are in your first year only. I don't know how much exposure you already had, but considering from the like perspective of first year, right? I didn't know anything about them. So let your second year begin. Do some dells. You can do a project informal. You can even if you can formally do a project under a professor only in your two, but still like you can do an informal project if you want to do like just to explore, just to see what you want to do, whether you are like genuinely interested or not. uh, uh, like a lot of people think that they will go for masters, they will go for like they'll do this everything in a very planned way, but things change a lot when you're in college. When you're in your third year, when you'll be in your fourth year, only then you will be able to say everything with certainty, not exact certainty, but still a little bit of certainty whether you want to actually pursue or not. You have a lot of time, you have your complete second year, explore it. Like if you do a research intern, get a good ps in like for ps1, instead of choosing some random ps, choose ones which like where you can do a good research intern. That way you'll be doing your ps as well and you'll have the exposure to research as well. I did that. I did my PS in ISRO. That helped me a lot. You can do the same thing, and there's no other way you can identify like your domain. Like you have to explore. You have to ask professors. Do courses. There are like courses for AI as a like AI in itself is like very broad term. You need to know like whether AI, deep learning, machine learning, then RL, then you want to go into like LLMs, NLP. There are a lot of things. Like you, step by step, you'll like get to a particular domain which is not as broad as like these umbrella domains. For quantum computing, I don't know much, but there is a course you can like ask some of the seniors who did quantum computing course, and I think there are like very few people who are pursuing it. But still, you can like approach the professor who is taking quantum computing, what kind of work there is, what kind of like things they do. Yeah, and you won't be able to do that before your second year. In your first year you can like read a number of papers, but uh, don't know exactly how much it will help. Just you can explore as much as you can. I think that's it that I want to say.
Let's go on with the next question. The next question is addressed to Abhijit. The question is, I am a third year student and haven't gotten an SI. I haven't done a SOP yet, but I have a good CG, have done an internship and a couple of good projects in Verilog. What should I be doing to get an RI for next year?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So you are not. It's fine. What you gotta do is, okay, figure out a subject that you like, right? Of whatever you have studied so far, figure out what you like. If you're really interested in electronics, that is, figure out a subject you like. Say it's MUI, say it's like ADVD or something, and you go to that prof. Go to him now. Go to him tomorrow, whenever, and tell him, sir, I am interested so and so. I would like to do some project with you, just some project with you. It doesn't have to be a SOP, right? And you go dedicatedly to his or her office, and you talk to them, and you actually do some project with them throughout this semester and the next semester, right? And as you do the project, when your application is open for at least in India RIs and so on and so forth, you just mention that project in your applications, and that will give you some concrete data to write about in your applications, which will make you, stand a bit apart from the countless seas of applications that come in, right? um, that you can do. Other thing is, just if you're not really sure as to what you really like, you know Perhaps you can read a paper which you find interesting and try implementing it on your own. I know it's a bit difficult, but it's not impossible, right? Most of what implementation requires is software access, which you can get from professors easily. Just go to the professor and say, "Sir, I want software access. Can I get it from you?" They'll agree to it, right? So yeah, that's not. You have a good CG, so that's already good. It's not a big problem that you have not done anything so far. Your PS2, if that remotely resembles what you did in electronics, that can also be used as concrete material for applications. But yeah, you're not really screwed or anything. You just have time, but you should start working from now on, right? And the objective is you don't go for something formal in bits, right? You just go informally to a prof and say कि sir काम करना है, कुछ भी काम दो आप, बस काम दो मैं काम करूँगा. That's all you have to do, and that sometimes leads to very good rewards in the end. That's what I did, and it really has helped me out. So yeah.
Proceeding with the next question. The next question is addressed to all speakers. The question is, the professors here in BITS are not too keen on giving a LOR unless you do a SOP under them, and getting SOP might be a bit hard in the CS department, and it was for me. So who could I approach in getting an LOR for applying on companies' research areas where they require one or more LORs to consider the application?
If no one's gonna go first, shall I go first?
Yeah, sure, Abhijit.
Yeah. Okay. In as I said, in electronics, one way you can get LORs is by doing SOPs, correct? One way you can also get an LOR doing informal SOPs, which is what I just mentioned in the previous answer. The third way you can do is you go to a professor's class. I know it's a bit cheeky what I'm saying, but you go to a professor's class and you go to every class and you answer all his questions or her questions, and you'll be sort of this favorite class kid, and they'll give you an LOR. That's just how it works, right? Um, Essentially for an LOR, the prof needs to be able to see you every day, right? Whether it be through a SOP meeting, whether it be through classes, whether it be through informal SOPs. So that's what I'm doing currently. I'm going to a class called Digital Image Processing. I haven't done any digital image processing in my life until today, but I go to each class because I'm interested in the course, and I answer all the questions that he asks. I'm actively participating in the class, and I now hope to get an LOR from him. I'll ask him honestly, because he knows me that I'm dedicated to come to classes, that I submit all my reports and assignments on time, so on and so forth, and that really helps. So if you're struggling to get a SOP, or if you're not able to do informal SOP, or if work is not progressing, just go to lectures and do good in those things, and that would really help you out. It's a very easy way to get LORs in at least the triple E department.
Thank you, Abhijit. The next question is a repetition of the second question, which is, if I haven't gotten an SI, how important is it to get an RI for a good on campus placement in 4-1? I believe Abhijit has answered that. The next question, uh, so it's addressed again to everyone. Since research internships requires prior reading of research papers, apart from your normal sites like Archive, what other research paper sites would you recommend for getting the full access to the research paper, since sometimes it's restricted?
You don't need a lot of papers to read before like applying to like you for sure you explore a lot of papers, but it's not like if the papers which are not openly available, you don't need to like have them as well to be like very specific to the domain of the professors. There are a lot of papers which are available freely. They are more than enough. Archive and most of the professors have their own website. Like if you are considering going into some lab, so they have their lab website and they have everything listed down, like all the papers attachments over there. So you can like explore them. You can go to their particular websites, but that again depends in which labs you are considering to apply. So they will be there, but they are specific to the labs. They are openly available for sure. For me, I didn't do anything else. I didn't refer to any other website. Other people might answer this.
Yeah, I'll just add up that as Arpita mentioned, that you don't really need to read so many papers. Basically, what you can do is generally go to a particular lab website or professor's website. You'll see a lot of the research work available. Now, the whole research paper might not be available, but generally the abstract is. They will at least let you read the abstract in the free version, and I think that should be sufficient to get an idea of what the research paper is about, enough to for you to mention it in a SOP or a cold mail. That should do for the initial moments.
I'll just like to add this one small thing that for papers, if I hear the question correctly, it's about not getting access to papers, right? So BITS has this wonderful thing called as Open Athens account. I highly suggest everyone make an Open Athens account. You get all the papers you want. Like IEEE is fully free for you then. LCVR is fully free for you then. Even I think American journals like the aerospace journals are free for you then. You just need an Open Access account. So then you get all the papers you want. Like, I have not found a single paper was not accessible through the Open Athens. So and you go to the library, you tell the librarian, sir, I want an Open Athens account. They'll generate one for you. That's all you need. Apart from that, you have GitHub, you have ARXIV, you have you know Discord sometimes. So there's just resources, but just get an Open Athens account.
Thank you, everyone. We will go on with the last question. This is again addressed to everyone. How do you balance your research aspirations with SI prep and placement prep? How to divide your focus? And can someone who has mostly been placement focused also work in research?
I cannot talk about placements, but for sure, like I am currently in my fourth year and I'm a dualite. So I had my third year summers for like preparing for my essay, and I was working on my project in US as well. So it's not too hard that you it's not it doesn't like it's not like that if you don't do anything you're in after your third year you just sit at home and like do DSA whole day. That's not that doesn't happen like that. So it's like I was working in a lab, I had my evenings to myself. Like the labs were very free. I could go anytime, I could come anytime. It was more about doing the work rather than just being there, like sitting there or like completing my shift. It was not like that. So for me, I had like all of my evenings, I did DSA during then. And after coming back to like campus, I had almost 1 month in which I did a lot of DSA so that I could secure an SI. So it's not something which cannot be fetched. Ki if you did an RI, that then you will lose on your SI. Both things can be managed. It's about time management and your priorities as well. If you don't want to do an SI, then it doesn't matter. But if you want to do an RI and SI as well, it can happen also. But you can't like think that you will do an RI and there will be no much work and the RI people will pay you and you can just prepare for your SI. That will not happen. If you are doing an RI, then you got to work there. Like if those people are paying you, then they will get the work out of you.
Yeah, I agree with Arpita on that. Like it's possible to do an RI and SI. It's just that you have to work. If you don't work, they'll actually get angry at you, and you tend to lose on both sides. But it is possible to do both placements and prepare for it, and then RIs and SIs. It's just as you said, you gotta manage your time. Um, yeah, I don't have much to add actually. But yeah, pretty much so.
Thank you very much. So that brings us to the end of our session. Also, for those who wish to contact our speakers for further guidance and for accessing an extensive list of BITSIN and alumni who have done their off-campus thesis and RIs, I recommend checking out the research database on the SAC website. The URL is Discover with SAC. We will be sharing the recording of this session later. And again, once a huge thank you to our speakers for their time and to all of you for joining us today. Have a good evening.